Music and art itself has always got to be full of contradiction and flaws. I think I can make my music accessible, but I don't think I can make myself that accessible.
I know no one needs to hear me. I know that I'm this good.
One of my fatal mistakes is to try and simplify my work. I felt like I had something different, and I felt like I crafted things in a more unique way. The record gain level was as high as it could go without distorting. Even in those artists, when you think, oh yeah, they are violent, they can be misogynistic, they have a bar, they have a line where it's meaningful to me.
I just heard you spitting bars and it was just words flung together. I can't understand where you're going.
I don't want to hear the beat. I don't want to think about the beat. I want to hear it, and then I want to feel it, and then I want to write. My career is filled with those, but I think it's because I put myself on the line artistically. This may be my last chance.
All right, so you know when you're sitting at home and you get a phone call from somebody that you know and they say, someone's gonna be here, you need to be here and you need to talk to this guy. And my heart starts beating in it because I'm a fan of this guy. And it's weird for me to say that because like I've gone to that level in my career where I just feel like, you know, I've surpassed everything I wanted to. So I never thought that I'd be looking at younger artists and thinking I'm a big fan, but I am, okay? So what can I say other than Cappo?
It's an honor as well, it's a privilege.
I'm gonna say it on camera. One of the greatest lyricists, rappers that this country has ever produced. And this guy needs his flowers. For anyone who doesn't know, I know it's underground stuff, but if music was promoted to the right audiences in the right way, guys like this would be hailed as kings in their art form.
That's crazy. Thank you so much for saying that, Blade. It means a lot.
I'm saying it from the heart, bro.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about, you know, why you're here tonight.
So tonight is Joe Buda's block party from Can't Stop, Won't Stop, and we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop music. And I was lucky enough to be chosen as one of the MCs who were gonna entertain the crowd for a short burst of lyricism from each MC. So I'm lucky enough to be here and representing Nottingham and my era of Nottingham rap music. There are some missing links in the puzzle who aren't here today. You know, MCs and, you know, rappers who aren't here today, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and, you know, being able to take part in the atmosphere feels good.
You've had links with True Thoughts, you've had links with Sun Records, you've done stuff with the Herbalizer. I remember seeing you, I think it was at the Forum in Kentish Town,
right, yeah,
when Herbalizer was on stage.
Right, yeah.
Right? I think you were on that stage, and I'm not sure if Bruce Manure was on that stage as well on that same night.
Okay.
But I remember seeing you at one of the shows. How did that link happen?
The link between me and the Herbalizer?
Yeah.
That's a difficult one to call. I know that I've got strong ties with Jay Doggett, and I think that we linked up through that. I think I had an album called Spaz the World that came out in 2003, and I think around about 2005 was when I think I was reached out to by Jay Doggett, and because there wasn't that much social media going on then. So I think it must have been a phone call or a text or an email or something. I can't quite recall how the relationship came about, but I just remember thinking, you know, that it was a substantial move to make, you know, for a group, for a well-established group, hip-hop outfit, like a live outfit, and production duo like the Herbalizer to call me out through recognition of my work with the P Brothers and my work with the True Thoughts released record Spaz the World. They contacted me through that recognition. I'm sure, I think they were working with Out the Ville at the same time. Maybe they had links with Out the Ville, and you know, they wanted me on another track. Out the Ville were featuring on one track and they wanted me on another. And things kind of came about where I worked on 2 or 3 tracks with them. And then I was lucky enough to travel with them on tour for a couple of years, which was good.
there's something happened at that show which I've been dying to tell for years, and I'm not sure if this is the right place to tell. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna say it because I think it was entertaining. It was funny. So I was kind of like in a bad place when that happened.
Right.
Financially and all kinds of Lee, whatever you want to call it, Lee. Yeah.
Okay.
And I hadn't eaten for days, and when I went there, Jake invited me, so I went there, and we went up to the dressing room, and Jake goes, "Yo, just help yourself to whatever you want." So while they're on stage, I've gone and got carrier bags and took everything and gone.
Amazing, yeah. That's what it's about, isn't it? Yeah.
You had your connection with P Brothers. How did that happen?
I was speaking to somebody recently about how I connected with the P Brothers. I think I was still coming up in the Nottingham rap scene, and I'd managed to connect with a record label in London after sending demos out. A record label, like we were saying previously, you know, an independently owned record company that was called Sun Records, and Alistair Nicholson from Sun Records, he agreed to release an EP with me and had intentions of releasing an LP. And during the time when I was working with Sun Records, I started to establish myself a little bit more on the live scene in Nottingham, and building relationships with DJs and producers and other rap artists. And that's when I got in contact with Stylie C, because Stylie had connections with Sun Records. So I was kind of under the wing of Stylie C for a while. He was mentoring me, showing me where original breaks came from for the Nas album, things like that. So it was just teaching me and mentoring me. At a point, I think during a live show, I think I met Paul S during a live performance, and we kind of hit it off, and that's when he sent me some instrumentals, and I think then he was also building his relationship with DJ Ivory from the P Brothers. So I think he put the word to DJ Ivory that I was willing to work and that I was willing to learn, and that's basically how we came about. And then that was another process of mentoring for me, where I learned from the P Brothers about that kind of really strict, stringent methodology and techniques of sampling, and understanding where breaks come from, and the years of the records to look for, and how to look through records. And I know I was an MC then, and I wanted to write bars, and I was happy to, you know, accompany them at shows and to rhyme for them when they produce beats. But I also wanted to learn how to produce beats, and I knew that they had like an essence to their music that really interested me, and it fascinated me to see them in the studio and their production process. I remember one of the things that really fascinated me, I had the same piece of equipment as them. I had an MPC 2000 XL, but the way that they utilized the 2000 XL was different to me. And one of the main ways that I can articulate that is that they would, the way that they would sample, I hope they don't mind me saying this, but it's, you know, the way that they would sample drums, or the way that they would sample their loops and whatever the noises were, they'd spend a long time making sure that the gain level, like the record gain level, was as high as it could go without distorting. And that's something that I never really cared for. I thought that would be done in the post-production or by engineers or during the mastering process. But they, from the very beginning, they made the drums as loud as possible through, you know, trial and error. So they'd put the gain up a few centimeters or a few millimeters, and it would come in too hot, so then they'd have to turn it down. But they would catch the drums as loud as possible without them distorting, which is how, you know, tracks for Spaz the World came about. A track in question, or an example of that, is something like Learn to Be Strong, where I think, you know, that's my track, so I'm biased. But whenever I listen to it, I just think, how did the levels come in so strongly? You know, that was a principle that they lived by. And learning those principles and learning, you know, just learning the language of sampling and where to go to get samples and what records to look for, you know. My love for progressive rock records came from them, because they knew about the breaks that were contained on progressive rock records, and that's something that I still carry with me to this day.
The Cappo that I met when we first met, there was something that struck me about you, and this is before I even heard you rapping, yeah, and someone told me you rap and everything, and we had a conversation. And for me, what was kind of interesting was that instantly, because of, and don't take this word the wrong way, but the arrogance Yeah, it was an arrogance in confidence.
Okay, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's not an arrogance in attitude, but in confidence. Like,
Yeah.
I know I'm good.
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
I could
yeah.
sense that even though I've not heard you, that you were going to be someone to watch.
Right, yeah.
And I remember walking away, and I think it might have actually been to Mickey Blue Eyes, and I said, yo, who's that guy? You know what I mean? Where did that confidence come from? Had you gone around and rapped to loads of people and had feedback, or was it just like, I know, no one needs to hear me, I know that I'm this good?
I think that some of it's inherent in rap music, isn't it? In certain MCs, it's inherent that competitive spirit to say that you are better than others. That's something that is innate.
But you know, there's also the delusion, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So did you confuse the delusion with the reality that you were actually that good?
I think I put myself out there. I risked my that reputation or that status to try and gain some of that status. To say, I'm this good, or when I controlled the microphone, I can do things different to others. I had a self-belief, I guess. I don't think that, when you think about a crew like Out the Ville, and from my experiences of knowing them, they were kind of an elite group of artists who would train and train and train.
And you got Big Trev on side.
Yeah, and you have Big Trevor almost like the coach. So if you imagine a group like Out the Ville at the time, how I envision it, like how I see the narrative of Out the Ville was, you had a talented group of artists who were then, like, their skills were harnessed and honed. That craft was honed through Trevor's knowledge and insight, and consistently putting them live on stages, consistently putting them live, doing live performances, back to back, building that skill until it was, repeated in your mind, till those neural pathways are just completely clear, and you on tap whenever needed. You just can spill bars really to a really high standard, and that's something that I didn't do. But I think I went down the route of a little bit more of. I felt like I had something different, and I felt like I crafted things in a more unique way. Not saying that a group like that is not unique in any way, but I just think that the concepts and the topics that I perhaps presented sometimes were a little bit more personal, a little bit more retrospective perhaps. I'm not entirely sure, but I just think it's a mixture of that idea of that innate competitive spirit, the spirit of competition as being an MC, and proving that you are a high caliber MC, but then also that idea that I had some type of personal self-belief, that I was saying things that perhaps not everybody was saying. And I think that's really important with music as a whole. I think that's for artists today and for artists of yesteryear and for artists to come. I think the more personal, the more kind of vulnerable you can let yourself be, I think the more that people will relate to that, I think.
What I really liked about what you were doing, and what I always like about what you're doing, is that it's never straightforward. Like, you listen to those lyrics, you get caught by the skills. You get caught by the confidence, and you just know, my man's serious. But then what brings you back to listening to that record over and over is to try and understand what goes on in that mind of yours, because it's not normal, bro. Some of your tracks I've listened to, I've had to go back 10, 15 times and go, there's like 9 meanings.
Yeah, that complexity and that ambiguity, I think, is a good thing in some ways. But then in also, I think it's hindered my career to some points as well. Like, my self-belief in myself beyond the music is difficult. Like, I don't consider myself to be a social media celebrity. I don't consider myself to be able to be adept at doing those things, and to be able to present and to be able to do those things is important. It was important when I was first, maneuvering in the industry, but it's even more important now. You need to be able to deal in social media and to promote your work in that way. But going back to what you were saying, I think one of my complexity and my ambiguity in my lyrics has really been important to me for the longest time. Like, looking at the greatest MCs of all time, like mentioning people like Rakim. And I always consider Rakim, I think, especially at the time when he first appeared in the music industry, to people's, to his listenership, I think he was ambiguous. He was complex.
The madness of that is, I was saying to someone recently that as complex as he was, like, I still remember his lyrics.
Yeah,
I can sit
yeah.
here and recite pretty much the whole of the first album,
Yeah.
even through the complexity. But I can't sit down and recite a Vanilla Ice track.
I agree. Yeah, that complexity was really important to me, and yeah, I know what you mean. You know, some artists have that ability to say something that's really difficult to understand, and it needs 9 or 10 times, or it's very layered. It needs 9 or 10 times to understand it, but you still can recollect the bar. You still can recollect the punchline, or you still, you know, it resonates with you in a certain way. And yeah, I always considered myself that I wanted to be ambiguous and I wanted to be complex. But coming off of that point, there is a lot of that complexity now. I think that hindered my career at some points because I feel like being a little bit more objective about my previous releases, my previous albums. I'm proud of everything that I've done, but I think there have been times when I listen back to tracks, I really listen back to myself, but if I listen back to tracks, often I find that I don't hold onto a concept, or I don't grip onto a theme that I set out initially. So maybe I will set out the first 4 or 6 or 8 bars and I'll be talking about something specific, then I switch it. And that comes from two places, I think, because sometimes I'll chop bars together. So I know that I read that John Lennon did that. You know, he would take a few bars from one thing that he's written and then take a few bars from another and mix them together. And
yeah,
so,
but bro, there's a big difference between John Lennon and you. Right?
Yes,
and let me explain that
definitely.
difference. Yeah. John Lennon had to put 8 words in a song. You've got to put 8,000 words in a song.
But then the key with John Lennon and artists like him would be that the words that he picked, the 8 words that he picked, has more than my complexity with 8,000 words.
Or just more simplicity.
More simplicity, yeah, and more appeal perhaps. And that's what I was trying to get at, is that I've come to a point now, like I'm 42 now, 43 now, and I've come to a point now where I think to myself, okay, I know that I can write in that complex way, and I know that rapping to me personally is a very cathartic experience. So I get a lot off my chest, and maybe I get a lot off my chest in 8 bars, but I know a song's gonna need more than 8 bars. So maybe it needs 3 16s and a couple of choruses as well, and maybe bridges. So what I've tried to do with my newer music is I've tried to maintain the concept or maintain the theme. So if I speak about there's a track off a new project that I'm releasing, which it's more simplified. So it's hopefully it still has the emotional complexity because it's personal to me and it shows that vulnerability. But there are tracks that are about my firstborn son, and I don't just speak about it ambiguously for 8 bars. I try to make it clear what I'm saying, because I think that that's a flaw in my career. I think I tried to shroud myself in that complexity and ambiguity. And I think sometimes, you know, people just want simplicity and they want to understand what they're hearing, and then they can make of it what they will. It's in the eye of the beholder. Music is in the eye of the beholder. So with that being said, you know, the products that I'm trying to release now are a little bit more accessible, I would say, without making them commercialized, because I just don't think that I, as a social media celebrity, or I as a presenter, or I as a focal point, I don't think I am, you know, that accessible. I think I can make my music accessible, but I don't think I can make myself that accessible. Don't know, you probably need training to do that type of thing, you know, to be able to present.
It's just a mindset, isn't it? If you want to do it, you can do it. And maybe you just don't want to do it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You know?
Maybe you're right. Yeah, I think so.
You know, what you said about the lyricism and how, you know, the complexity and everything, and like switching from subject to subject.
Yeah.
I done an interview with someone not too long ago where I said, I mentioned to a rapper that I was talking to who asked me to recite some of my lyrics, and basically I said, you know, let me hear yours first, yeah? So I heard his first and I said, bro, I think you're doing this all wrong. And he's like, what do you mean? So I said, look, as a lyricist, it's like I just heard you spit in bars and it was just words flung together. I can't understand where you're going. So my question is, how do you write? You know, the writing process. Do you have a production, a beat that's playing, and then you just start writing? And he goes, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. If I gravitate to a beat, then I'll just start. And I go, okay, can I give you a piece of advice? And he's like, what's that? I go, I think before you start, do what people like me do. Not everyone does it, but what I like to do is I look at it like Al Pacino or Robert De Niro in a movie role.
Yeah.
I analyze the role before I get into it. Yeah. And then I start practicing, and then I watch at every stage to see if I'm actually in that role. Do you understand?
That's
right. So when I'm writing lyrics, and this is what I advised him, I go, bro, before you start writing, don't just jump in to put pen to pad. Get a topic in your head and learn how to stay on topic.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I will say is you're one of those guys that I don't think anyone gives a shit if you don't stay on topic, bro.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I didn't care. I was just like, yo, the lyricism, the depth,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
It might be that, you know, one of my fatal mistakes is to try and simplify my work. But I still feel there's enough emotion, like I was saying before, I still hope that there's enough emotional complexity that it still has that level of depth to it. But we'll have to see when it's released. We'll see what people think.
Going back to that word that you mentioned earlier, vulnerability.
Yeah.
So, you know when you have a conversation with someone and say you're going through an emotional period in your life and you need someone to talk to. So you can have a conversation in many different ways.
Yeah.
You can have a conversation where you just say, look, something's getting to me, something's bothering me. Or you can sit down and break down what's bothering you. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, do you feel your career would take a different role if you actually use the music to break down what you're going through rather than just surface level touching it? And in a confusing, complex way that people don't get.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think my career would definitely have taken different paths if I had been more honest and open and willing to, expose myself personally in that way. But again, there are certain things, there are certain aspects of my life that I prefer just to keep to myself, that I don't consider of interest, or I just consider they'll be too close to my heart to speak upon. But having said that, I think as I grow and as I mature, the topics, I in the past few years I've started to be able to objectify, and I've started to be able to look, like, step away from myself, and like you were saying, think about the process, of writing, and in that process, I'm now able to step away and think, okay, well, what would the listenership think to what I'm saying, or how am I going to bring this back on track? Or
the Cappo that I remember wouldn't have given a shit about that.
Yeah, that's the difference, I think, and yeah, that's the truth. Is you shouldn't have to. I don't think.
Not as an artist.
Yeah, not as an artist, and that's sometimes you can hear that in certain artists, because they start to try hard. They'll make a great first album, or they'll have a run of good albums, and then later on in their career, when they want to revisit that, or they want to get that to that point again, they start to try really hard and overthink, like, what is it I'm doing wrong here? What is it that I used to do that I didn't? And that's when you can overthink and make it too complex. So yeah, there's two sides to the coin, though, because I was going to say, with you giving that advice to that rap artist about, a suggestion of, these are just words to me. For me, and you suggesting that rap artist should really, like, take time and think about it, like, listen to the beat, get into a role, think about the process, what you're going to do with it, and how you're going to structure it, and almost navigate that whole process. For me, I still try to almost pretend like I don't want to hear the beat. I don't want to think about the beat. I want to hear it, and then I want to feel it, and then I want to write. And it might be 12, or it might be half an hour's worth of writing, it might be an hour, and then I need to leave it and record it on my phone, say, whatever I have. And I know in myself when I've said something that's truthful, that I feel like that sparks something within me, and then I'll leave it. And then, I don't know about you, but the writing process for me is when I've recorded something, I'll go back to it the next day or with fresh ears. And it's like another artist, because I can't remember the flow pattern, I can't remember the exact words that I'm saying. And so it's like revisiting something that I didn't really write. It's very new to me to arrange a track, to think about it first and get into a role, perhaps. That's something that I've only just started to do, in the past couple of years.
But that's because you're playing two roles. You're playing producer and rapper, right?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, but even on other people's productions, I don't like to overthink it before I start to write, because I feel like I'm being untruthful to myself in a way. Like, I'm not going to say the things that I was originally thinking. I like to be spontaneous, not in like a freestyle rap way where I'm just spontaneously saying things in a stream of conscious. But I do tend to just really try to scribble things down, almost kind of half thinking about it, so I can really get something, to the point. And then I can write it. 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 And then I can wr solid, and then build around that. I think, you know, it's just one side of my writing process, I guess.
Just moving away from that, was there ever a point where you felt like, you know, I can feel like something is changing, this is going to happen, and then it was maybe a bit of a letdown that it didn't happen? You know, like, you know, say touring with somebody massive, or signing to, I don't know, True Thoughts or Sun, or...
Yeah, I was like a young, hungry MC who had all this self-belief, had dealt in complex subject matter, perhaps, or however we were saying it. And yeah, I would have this tendency to move on quickly. So my principles, or my mode of thinking was release, release, release. Like, don't wait around, don't hold back on anything. Just keep trying to release. Like, the more products that you have out there, the more you're going to show that you're relevant. And that was a big deal for me, to maintain my relevance, to make sure that I was out there doing something. But yeah, I guess there's points in my career where I think, you know, I didn't realize I was lucky to have that situation going on. And in some ways, I remember like being almost too perfectionist, or too problematic for myself, like too self-critical. Because I remember when Spaz the World came out, I got the CDs back, and the first thing I told myself to notice was that some of the imagery on the cover was kind of off-centered. So I was unhappy about something immediately, rather than thinking...
But that's why you are the lyricist you are.
Well, maybe, yeah. But, you know, that's a problem, because you can start to see problems, or you can start to see issues with things that aren't there. Like, I look at the cover now, I don't see anything off-center. It's like it's almost a hat. The phrase is self-sabotage, I think.
Yeah,
there's a lot of self-sabotaging going on throughout my career.
Bro, it's not just you, trust me. We've all done it. I've done it. Yeah. And I have this conversation with so many artists where, I mean, in a recent interview we done just last week, you know, I say that basically it's about people hindering themselves. Yeah. And there's no reason for it apart from your own ego and your own pride.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So. Yeah.
You were saying about the labels and moving away from one label to the next and everything. And do you not feel that was more destructive than helpful? Yeah,
I think so. Now I think back, like I was speaking to a label owner recently about this, and it's only till I got to my 40s that I started to realise, like, why did you, you know, thinking back retrospectively and just thinking, why did you not continue that relationship, or what? And I think a lot of it was to do with that perfectionist mentality, like, this should have worked better, this should have done better, why is it not happening? And then blaming somebody along down the lines to do with the label that I'm working with or whatnot, and just thinking, where did it go wrong? Yeah, where did it go wrong, kind of. And in that point...
I'm saying there.
What's that?
It went wrong there.
Yes, yeah, in some ways, because if I'd have built relationships with, like I was saying to you previously before we started recording, most of the record labels that I work with are owned by independent.
And they care about the art.
They care about the art, and they have a passion for the art form. And so what you can do with a label like that, it's not like a giant organisation where you can give or take, or you sign on the dotted line and then you speak to many different people throughout your journey. You're probably working with one or two people. And so to build a strong relationship with those people, that's what I would advise younger artists, is to have that kind of respect for the people who have the passion for the music, and keep building with them, you know. And every record that you build with them, make it honest and have integrity, and keep building with them. As long as there's no kind of, I mean, you can go down the route of thinking there's artistic misdirections, aren't there? Like, you can have artistic issues with people. Like, I know that there's some labels that I've worked with, they needed to have a hand in the art form somewhere, whether it was changing artwork or having a hand in something to do with the production or the music. There are times when there were artistic discrepancies or artistic differences, you know, that caused me to back away from those relationships.
Was it fear?
I don't think it was necessarily fear. I think it was...
When I say fear, I mean fear of, like, thinking that maybe your audience is going to now see a different you that isn't you, or something along those lines.
I don't know. I mean, I think I have high standards of what I release most of the time. Like, I never put myself out on a limb. I've got friends in Nottingham who I rhyme to, and they are kind of like my artistic filter as well. So I kind of judge what I'm saying. I'll go through a process of filtering myself to make sure that what I'm going to release I'm happy with to a higher to a standard that I think is high. Then I'll go through those filters as well. So I think by the time it gets to a label or the time it goes to the listener, I don't think there's any fear involved with regards to what I'm putting out there and what I'm saying. Whereas, but saying that, I think I've put myself out on a limb a little bit more with the newer projects, you know, because I'm older now, and you just see things different when you're older, don't you? Like the world is a different place. Yeah. The other things are important, you know. There are things in life that are far more important, and other things that used to be really important, they're infinitesimal now. They don't mean anything. So with that being said, you know, putting yourself, and it goes back to the idea of vulnerability as well. Like I now understand, because I understand what I resonate with when I listen to an artist. A rap artist can say that they are a great lyricist, and they can say that they're a product of their environment, and they can put a lot of complexity into that. And like you were saying, you listen to all of that complex stuff, and sometimes it can be overwhelming to your senses. But the things that stick with me are those phrases and those passages where it talks a little bit about vulnerability, about those things that are almost coded or layered, that you have to understand if you've listened to the music for a long time. You know how there's a lot of people on the periphery of rap music for years and years have always said, you know, it's violent, it's misogynistic, it valorizes.
Depends who you listen to.
Yeah, well, exactly. But there's a lot of that. There's a lot of prejudice to that. But even in those artists, when you think, oh yeah, they are violent, they can be misogynistic, they have a bar, they have a line where it's meaningful to me, because they're flipping all of what they just said on its head, because they're going to say something that relates to their upbringing or to their mother or something like that, and it kind of flips it all on its head. Music and art art itself has always got to be full of contradiction and flaws, because it's, you know, that's human. That's the human condition, isn't it? So it's important for me.
Back in the days, you'd get football managers and they'd stay on, and they'd be with the team, and they'd help the team nurture, and they'd achieve better results, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at, say, Sir Alex Ferguson, no other manager could do what Alex Ferguson did.
Yeah.
But that's because he got to kind of stay at Man United and grow with them and build them, and eventually get, like, it took years to finally get the right team for what he needed it to be.
Yeah.
But anyone he brought in, he knew that this person's going to fit in with the rest. You know, it's rare that he got it wrong. Nowadays, everyone's so flippant. It's just like, oh, we lost one game. Screw this manager. Kick him off. You know, we're going to have the janitor as the caretaker now. You know what I mean? So you'd rather kick a manager that's experienced off so you can have a janitor as the manager. Where I reference it to what you do or what you did, do you not feel like if you'd stuck around, then you would have progress to the level that you're talking about now much sooner?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think loyalty is important, you know, in the music industry. But then perhaps if I hadn't have moved on from places and focused on releasing products, you know, I wouldn't have got to this point in my career, you know. I think, but yeah, it's just something in the past couple of years I've thought about, and you know, I don't. You know, the definition of madness is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So now I'm a little bit more mature. Now I've, you know, made the decision to try and stay loyal, and work through artistic differences with labels, rather than start to distance myself when an artistic difference occurs. Maybe articulate it, try and get through it rather than walk away. I mean, the other point to make is that I'm getting to a point, like in my new project, I talk about, like, this may be my last chance. You don't know how many chances do you get. For a person with passion to understand your perspective and your focus, and to say, I want to present you with this, with a chance to release another record, and I'm going to work on it with you. It's not that common. So when I think about that, I think, you know what? Let me try and work on this relationship. Let me try and build this, and let's try and build this label, and let's try and let me really be a figurehead of it, or let me try and do my best work for this label, and then let's see how successful it is, and if it's successful enough for this label to be happy to do another album, then let's go again and let's see where it can lead, you know, because I've never done that before. I kind of had sporadic relationships with labels, like with King Underground, YNR, Blunted Astronaut, Sun Records, Zebra Traffic, True Thoughts, Ninja Tune, all of these labels where perhaps if I'd have worked harder at building personal relationships with the label owners or, you know, the people in charge, maybe I could have kept a progressive amount of records being released on that same label.
Maybe I got this wrong, but I'm hearing regrets.
Yeah, I think, yeah, Jay-Z says it, you know, in order to survive, you have to learn to live with regrets. So I think I'm talking about regrets, but I'm not a regretful person. I think what I am is reasonably progressive, and I am wholeheartedly objective now. Like, I'm trying to speak about myself like it's another person. I'm speaking on their career. What could they have been doing? What could they have done when they were in their 20s, you know? So it's something that I've spoken about to the labels I'm working with now, you know. It's like in the past, like I'm being honest, in the past I've been quick to jump ship and move away and want to release something in a different way. But then, you know, this time around I want to try and build something and see what happens. I mean, we spoke about fears and regrets and things like that. I think, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to say, you know, my career is filled with those, but I think it's because I put myself on the line artistically, you know, and I try hard to do something that other people aren't doing. And, you know, it's only very, very recently that I've tried to make something that's what I would consider more accessible to a wider demographic.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Well, I hope that it works. You know, I hope that it works. You know, I hope that when you hear it, that you get the same.
I'm a fan, bro. Nothing's gonna change.
Well, maybe it will. Maybe it'll change when you hear it. But it's
put it this way: if you're suddenly going Ice Ice Baby, then we got a problem.
That's what I'm doing. That's exactly
yeah, well, we got a problem then, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's not gone that far yet. But it's, you know, it's trying to open up the words that I'm speaking. It's more speaking about the working class experience in the Midlands. Yeah. So I've tried to, the project is called Canon, and it will be released in the next 6 months or so. I haven't got a fixed date. The project is called Canon, and it was built with the idea of being honest and telling the truth about my life. So it talks about things that we've spoken about during this interview, but it encompasses like the idea of the abundance mentality. Whereas I think for a long time in my career, I've wanted to keep a lot of things to myself. So a solo album or a solo EP would be just me chipping away at a record for a bunch of months, and then it would just be me on every track. You know, me with a couple of choruses on it, me, you know, saying other bars. And not having many guest features, whereas this album has guest features. So it started to become apparent whilst I was writing that the guest features that I was working with, the guest features who I thought about when I listened to the music, were all based around the Midlands or the North. So the album has this kind of Midlands or North-centric feel to it that I think is reasonably rare at the moment. So, you know, it's got artists like Connie Khan on it. It's got Juggernaut and Vandal Savage from Knots. It's got Scorzayzee on the track, me and Scorzayzee going back to back, like, you know, and it feels like that, you know, like we've got back together, you know, and it has that essence to it. Hopefully you'll feel that. It's got Lee Scott from Liverpool. It's got voices from lots of places. Yeah. And it also it's engaging with poets and artists, and it also has other rappers from Nottingham like Ruckus Regardless and Midnight, who I've been friends with for a long time, but I've asked them specifically not to just trade verses this time, and I've said to them, look, listen to the concepts that are involved in the album and then speak on it. You know, listen to the music. Do you feel the music? Then put the headphones on and just kind of sit by the microphone and talk it out.
What I was saying about getting into the role.
Yeah, I guess they're getting into the role, but they're also speaking spontaneously. It's one of the first times they listen to the music. They're saying something, and then we're integrating those feelings or those senses into the music. So it's a better. Sometimes in a way, it makes me feel like those parts of the track, regardless of how much I'm spitting or how seriously I'm trying to get my point across, it's those sporadic, spontaneous, kind of more human sentences that are being said around my structured bars that are the most memorable parts of the album. So, but yeah, You know, we'll see what you think.
I liked the confident, almost arrogant lyricist rapper and hungry rapper when I first met you.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting back and I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I'm, like I said, I'm picking up on the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I like that too. So me as a fan, I'm gonna be supporting whatever way. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think there's a lot of people out there. Like sometimes it is nice to tell your story in a way where people get it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I know people that are still listening to your stuff and they're still confused because of the depth of what's going on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not your fault. It's their capacity to deal with what you're saying, because they're not on that level. Like they just like everything's sugar-coated and simple.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And that's not what you do.
Yeah.
Are you going to have an album launch party? Or
I'll try my best, yeah. I want to really concentrate on it, you know. Like I was saying before, in the past I've flipped from one thing to another and just done a couple of shows for this and then skipped along. I've never really engaged in a tour for myself. I mean, I don't know how. I probably have to speak to management, etc. But I'd like to promote the album as much as possible.
If we can help, then
that
let me know
amazing.
as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can do, but like we can talk. And,
Thank you.
You know, if I can help, I will. Why don't you come down to 521 and do a performance there to promote the album?
Definitely, yeah. I'd be happy to do that.
Maybe we can even arrange to do that live and get people tuning in as a live thing.
That would be great. Yeah.
Which means you can't fuck up, bro. You got to get on the mic and.
You know, I was listening. You know what? That's a really interesting point that you were saying about, you know, messing up live and the importance of not messing up live. And you know, when you've got your shot, you've got to present it well. I was listening to an artist called Billy Woods recently, and he had a hook. I can't remember what the hook was, but as part of the hook, he was almost telling himself like, oh, which part of this next show am I gonna mess up? Which words am I gonna forget this time? And he was almost like promoting it as like, it's part of my show. Like, look out for the moment when this mistake arises. Yeah, that's a clever guy.
Very clever.
Yeah, so I like to think about it like that. Make a feature of the mistakes.
You know what? I've told a story about you to so many people over the years. It's one of those moments when I'm just like, damn, the next generation is here. I've been an artist all my life. When I came through a certain stage, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm the best thing out here. Do you know what I mean? I know, like, I can jump on any stage and steal the show, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then there came a moment when I just thought, shit, let me rethink that.
Yeah.
And that stage involved you.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, bro, I'm not scared of any competition. Right? When it comes to MCing, it's like I can hold my own. When it comes to performances on stage, I can hold my own. But it was the realization that it's changed.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying?
That's incredible.
Right? So let me tell that story. So we were performing at an event, which I think, I know it was in Nottingham, but I think the club was called The Bomb. And I'm outside the venue and I'm talking to Cappo. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
I remember, yeah.
Right.
I think so.
I was talking to Cappo and I said to him, yo, do you want to jump up on stage? So we got into the club and Cappo jumps up on stage. Okay. Now, he brought somebody else on stage with him. And when I'm there performing and everything, he's come up and I've given him the mic and he started rhyming. So I'm just like, yo, you know what? Let me just sit down because this is good. Yeah. I'm like, but for me, I always try and shine light on the other talent. I've always been that guy.
That's an amazing thing to do, yeah.
Right? Like I said, it's because I'm not insecure. I'm not like, you know, so what if you steal the show from me? I just got to take the mic off you and come back better.
That's the abundance mentality, yeah.
So Cappo's on stage and he's performing and I'm like, shit, my man's dope. Anyway, he's just spitting bars, just going, right? And it's like I'm thinking, when's this gonna end? My man's embarrassing me now, right? Then he goes on and on and on, and then another guy grabs the mic that he brought up on stage, and there's me thinking Cappo was amazing, and then this guy just goes off, and I'm seeing this chubby guy who I'm thinking is gonna have breathing problems, and no fucking way, he had no breathing problems, right? My man has just gone, bam, blah, 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 blah. And I'm there thinking, oh shit, have I just done a poop in my pants or something? Because I've got to follow this. Right? So I'm not ashamed to say it. But when you lot were performing, I sat down. I don't think you could see me, but I went to the side and I sat down. And I remember you coming to give me the mic and I said, nah, bro, just stay on, just do some more. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I recall it, I think, yeah.
Right?
Who was the artist who was...
Scorzayzee.
No way. That's crazy.
You and Scorzayzee.
Yeah.
And that was the realization for me, like, damn, the next level has come. Because I knew when Task Force came, I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Skinny Man was there, I knew. When Kalashnikov was there, I knew. When
Yeah.
you were there, I knew.
Yeah.
Do you understand? There was different levels.
Yeah.
So for me, that was one of those memorable moments where I'm never going to forget it. I
Yeah.
told that story so many times to so many people. I think I've actually told it on some of my interviews as well. But to be sat here and telling it again, but with you sat here, to me, that's a massive blessing.
That's crazy.
So, bro, sorry, man, I had to.
No,
yeah,
thank you.
What you did that night was an eye-opener that I needed to up my level.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Nah, bro, it's there and it'll happen again, you know what I mean? Not necessarily through me being on stage, but through the channel, however I can help.
Once again,
you know what I mean?
thank you for this opportunity, you know, this current opportunity as well. It means a lot to be able to speak to you and just chop it up with you in a serious way like this.
Well, here's what I think. I think you're searching and you're finding yourself still from the conversation that we've had. And I think once you get to that point where you searched and found the person that you want to be and that you're comfortable with, I think that's going to be game over for a lot of people. Like, I think that's going to be a dangerous place for, like, it's literally, a lot of people are going to get thrown in the arena with the lion in it. And that's it. And it's either the lion or you. You know, I'm just speculating because I haven't heard this stuff. You could come out with la 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 la.
That's pretty much what it is, yeah.
Well, there you go. Then, like I said, we got problems then, innit? So I'm looking forward to it.
When I send you the link, if there's just a silence, I'll know that I've not done what I should have done. But I'll know through the silence, you know.
I want to see the different person that you are now because of what you said about the record labels. So I'm going to role play, and I want to see the character that you are now. So anyone who works for record labels and stuff that is watching this will kind of understand that they're dealing with the person that's here now. Yeah, don't, because sometimes there's a danger of people remembering the person you were and not allowing the person that you are. And people are allowed to change. People are allowed to learn from their mistakes.
I think it's important, isn't it?
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the role play. Bring, bring, phone's ringing. Friggin' El Cappo, answer the phone, man. Bring, bring. I'm a record label. Answer the phone, damn it.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can I speak to Cappo, please?
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, Cappo, listen.
I'll put you on speaker.
Oh, no, don't do that, man. Your girlfriend's going to get mad at me for not... But anyway, probably you took the role play far, innit? So basically, Cappo, listen, Jazz T just sent me some of your stuff and I'm blown away. Like, I really want to talk to you and basically find out what you're doing, and would you be interested in coming in to talk on a long-term deal? Like, we're looking at 3 albums and, I don't know, 10 singles and tours and all kinds of stuff. But we need loyalty, we need stability, but also what we're looking for is an artist that is willing to listen to our creative thoughts as well. What's your thoughts?
I'm definitely open for a negotiation. Yes, I'll come to you at your nearest convenience, and we can speak about these creative thoughts that you've got. But you know what? The truth is, I'm really happy, and I am honoured that you've listened to my music and that you value my artistry highly. But we'll have to lay ground rules as to how much creative control that you have with the music. Otherwise, I'm afraid, like, in all honesty, if I'm having to do too much for someone else, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it'll work out. So I have to put it out there clearly now that we'll need to set creative boundaries to say how much creative control that you have, because at the end of the day, you know, I want to be proud of the record to a point where I want to promote it, and I don't want to feel like I've been pushed back on so many things so many times that I don't want to hear it, or I'm not proud of the record. Okay, that's fair. But what if I was to say that I'm open to negotiate, but if you're stepping on the boundaries of what we need to sell the product, we're willing to still talk, but it means the advances are going to be much less. We can talk. Okay. We can talk, because money isn't everything. Money doesn't, you know, money is important, but... I'm talking about money to even finish the recordings, because that's what the advances are for. So, well, we can talk about it, but I don't want to sign anything at the moment. It sounds like there's a lot of stipulations. Like this sounds like there's a lot of things that we need to really iron out. But yeah, it sounds great. Let's talk about this going forward. We can have more conversations and
so
see how it
that's
works.
the important thing. We're open for conversation.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, bro, I'm going to text you my details. So 1 second, I'm going to send it to you now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, all done. Bing.
I've got them. Yeah.
you got
okay.
All right,
That's
yeah,
the
good.
label. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the label.
Yeah, that's
we
good.
don't play about, bro.
Yeah, no, that's no. I'm even more honoured that you've given the you've even given me time to speak.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how I would try and negotiate, I guess.
Do you know we kind of fucked up in it? We didn't put the phones down.
Oh yeah, they're probably still listening to us.
Yeah. It's in it like.
Shut that off. Yeah. Thanks again.
All right, bro. Anything else to say?
Thank you so much for your time and thanks for the opportunity.
No, wicked, man. I appreciate this. So yeah, guys, Cappo, what can I say? Oh my God. So make sure you look out for his material coming soon. If he lets me know that it's coming out, I'm gonna put the information out on my channel as well. And I'm also gonna put it out on my social media pages, of course. And just look out for that, because I know it's gonna be on next level, because there's not that many artists that do what this guy does. Simple as. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.